Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Levi. I'm the founder of Dynamic. We specialize in business process optimization, smart marketing strategies, and data and AI solutions to scale your revenue. And we mainly focus on bookkeeping and accounting firms. Today, we're on the podcast, The Balance, and I'm with a very special guest, Tanya. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. To start off with the podcast, could you quickly introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me here, Levi. So I'm Tanya Hilts. I am CEO and founder of Cloud Business Services and Tanya's Bookkeepers Bootcamp. So I get very bored and I do a lot of things. We of course provide bookkeeping, accounting services, advisory services, cash flow specialization for small business owners. And on the accounting side, I actually do work with accounting firms that are looking to grow, especially within the cloud, on efficiencies and confidence and just a lot of things and how to help them grow and be different than the traditional accounting or bookkeeping firm.
And can you tell us a little bit more about how you got into all that? Where did it all start? How have the past years maybe been? And to where
Absolutely.
you are right now?
I fell into it as most people usually do. This is my third career. I did start with tax and compliance. It overlapped. So insurance is what I used to do. So very high compliance industry. And at 25 years old in 1997, I actually ran an office that had a Liberty Tax. And I said, okay, if I'm managing the office, I need to understand tax. So that's when I went in and started. And then I kind of started a hobby business back then. And then fast forward to 2001, when I had my daughter, I didn't want to go back to work. I wanted to be able to find the balance to raise her, be involved in her life, and still be involved in work. And fast forward to 17 years ago. So I was focused on tax and compliance and dealing with audit 17 years ago to a new area. And that's when I expanded into the bookkeeping side of things. My daughter's getting older, didn't need me as much. And it was getting into the other side of things. What I didn't realize is I thought, doesn't everybody look at things the same way that I do? My experience being customer service focused, no, they don't. So I look at this as we are not a traditional bookkeeping firm in the fact that we put our clients first. We are very high on customer service instead of behind the scenes. So we've always done that differently. And when other people started to see I was doing that, they wanted to learn from me. And part of my background, as well as insurance, I spent 4 years 6 years out of 17 in call center. And part of that was I have the ability to look at things and reverse engineer. I can't look at things and do a forward engineer, so I do a reverse engineer, but I'm able to go in and look at something in a different way and break it down and rebuild it. And so part of that comes with SOPs and internal procedures. And that was just it. It was because of my experiences being very different than most bookkeepers or accounting professionals, because those that went to school for that, you're not taught that. You're not taught customer service. You are just strictly taught, accounting and ledgers and double entry system and whatnot and compliance. So yeah, so that's kind of how it all came about. I just love helping people and I can help more people this way.
So you would say that the difference between your firm and the traditional bookkeeping or accounting firm is that you focus much more on customer service and actually helping them, guiding them. Their experience is more important to you than just the numbers, basically.
And the relationship. It's about the relationship. So
Mhm.
most bookkeepers, so before the cloud came, so when the cloud came, it was easier for us to move in. Before the cloud came, we still had good relationships with some of our clients, but we still had some of our clients dropping off paperwork every 90 days. So it, was very transactional. So by the time we got to the cloud and we started working with it every single week, we were able to really work more with the clients. And it's that loyalty and that relationship base that is so much more important, because at that point, the clients feel comfortable calling us and asking us a question, whereas with traditional firms, they were still calling their accountant. Well, we have that information accessible. We have it. We have the relationship. And so that has made a big, big difference. So like I say, it's loyalty and relationship.
And next to loyalty and relationship, what are your firm's core values or the most important things within your firm? And how does this show up in the day-to-day operations?
Trust, honesty, is huge, and that does show up within our day-to-day operations as to the fact that when we bring on a bookkeeping client, so some people out there who don't have the same confidence or might look at things a little differently, they say, well, the client pays me, so I do what the client tells me to do. I don't look at it that way. I am the professional. I know the rules. I know the compliance. If the client wants me to do something that I know is not correct, or that I know that, our Canada Revenue Agency up here in Canada will deny, I won't put it through. So I tell the clients that they are paying me to make sure they follow the rules. And if they want me to break the rules, that is a breach of our agreement, and we will walk away right there. Whereas other bookkeeping firms might say, well, you know the risk, because of course, no matter what country you're in, I believe it's all the same, that whoever signs the tax return is the person who's responsible. We take that very differently because, again, the person signing the tax return isn't the professional, doesn't know what's right or what's wrong. So we need to do that behind the scenes. And that comes with, we need to be very confident and very strong willed at sometimes when clients want us to push those boundaries. We need to be able to really stand by that and not do that. But that's what we do differently. And I tell clients up front, if they are looking for somebody who's cheap or somebody who will do what they want them to do, regardless of what Canada Revenue Agency wants, we are not the right fit.
You really want to do everything by the books.
And that's exactly, because it's our relationship, and we have a great relationship with Revenue Canada. And whether people want to admit it or not, they have little files on us. So if we have, a certain percentage of our files that are pulled for review and they find errors, guess what? That percentage goes up. And I then, need to spend more time doing the reviews, finding more mistakes. And at the end of the day, the one thing that we do differently is we audit proof our books up front for our clients, which also means that if Revenue Canada comes in, as long as they've listened to us, and if they don't listen to us again, they're gone. But as long as they've listened to us, we will deal with all of these reviews at no charge. Whereas they're probably paying their accountant $250 an hour to deal with that. But we do it all upfront. We cover the cost because we have the confidence in the books.
Yeah. And with your firm right now, what is like your big mission or your big goal, the thing that you're working towards basically for the future?
So the thing that I'm working towards will benefit both the firm and other accounting and bookkeeping firms, mostly bookkeeping, as well as the client. So it's multi-level. I think no matter where you are in the world right now, in mid 2025, we are all dealing with an uncertain economic climate. We are dealing with, tariffs and renegotiating of trade acts. We're dealing with a post pandemic recession in most places. And I know Canada's been hit very hard with all of that. And so I started looking into this a year ago. I had only expected it was a post pandemic recession we'd hit, not realizing we'd have other challenges, but it's cash flow management. And it's been very difficult for me in the past to discuss cash flow with clients, because the way that I was raised and the way I do my cash flow is if you can't afford it, you don't buy it. And if you want to get into payments, then you have to be able to put that as payment aside for 6 months before you get into the agreement. If you don't, you can't afford it. So when I'm talking to clients who have so much passion in what they do and are so personally attached to the business, and I see that they're a train wreck, and I tell them, you're going to be bankrupt in 6 months, you can't afford to buy it, conversations don't go very well. So I've kind of avoided those conversations with the clients. And I've recently found or partnered up with the Cashflow Canvas, and it's another Tanya. So Tanya Woods Richardson is her name, and she reverse engineers. And I've worked with her before, mentored with her before, but she reverse engineers the cash flow, which was so interesting, in the budget. And I said, okay, you know what? I already know she speaks the same way that I do because she reverse engineers. I can get it. And so I am now certified on her program. We have my internal team members getting certified, and her and I have partnered together on the Bootcamp side, where I work with accounting professionals to try to get this rolled out so that everybody can try to help their clients in this way. So I have some people who don't want to get certified, but they want to refer their clients over, refer them over, do a course, and then I send them back, type of thing. And then it's helping everybody. And it is such a good way. And essentially you just walk the clients through the process. the numbers reveal themselves where you have them do the process. The numbers, the reasons, the everything just reveals itself so beautifully that all I have to do then is put my hands out and catch them when they fall and say, now, okay, you see that, now let's move on, because that was the part that they don't listen to me. And so the way they go through this process, the numbers magically reveal themselves. And it's not really magically, they're there all along, but the way they reveal themselves, it's wonderful. So I think that's going to help, again, small businesses. It's going to help bookkeepers, because bookkeepers right now, as we've got threats of coming into it, and like QuickBooks Online is bringing in AI, and we've got the bank feeds and all of this stuff. I personally don't believe AI is a threat. I personally believe AI is a tool. It will never ever replace us. It will be a tool for it, but we still have to be able to provide more value. So this is the way that the traditional bookkeeper can get into providing more value and get into that advisory, because essentially the way this works, it is management accounting. And so many bookkeepers just think, well, only a CMA can do management accounting. No, we can do that. We can get this. We can get certain levels. There are certain things that they still need to bring in their accountant to deal with, but there are certain things that we can do to get them to that level very easily and quickly. So that's my goal, is to be able to do that, because if, just in Canada, as an example of 1%, if every business increased their top line sales by 1%, in 5 years, that is enough revenue collected with taxes from, now you can afford to pay your employees more, and now you've got more in your corporate taxes. When you take a look at the full tax structure, that is enough to pay off Canada's national debt. And that's pretty mind blowing. I mean, would they pay off the national debt? Probably not, but it's pretty mind blowing, with that. And that every candidate, somebody born today is born with over $2,000, or sorry, $23,000 debt in Canada. The US is a very similar number, that they're born with that type of debt when you take a look at the national debt divided by, the number of people. So that's my goal, is to try to get everybody doing that so that we can have a better future for all of us.
So that's really nice. And
yeah,
with this big goal, obviously on the way there must be some challenges or some serious obstacles that you are facing.
Yes.
What do they look like for you?
So the obstacles I'm facing for that, it's very interesting, because I am now going to have to get into a place of marketing that I've never gotten into before. I believe that the small businesses out there will not see the same value in what we do. So I'm working with some other bookkeepers who are sending their clients to me for training, because they as well believe that the clients will say, well, you need to give this to me for free. No, it is a separate course. It is a separate everything. We are using, when we are certified, we are using the tools of the founder of this, because this whole process and methodology is trademarked. So it is completely separate. It is not part of our bookkeeping services. So it's going to be difficult, I think, doing that. So for doing that, I'm marketing it separately, because I do want all of my clients to go through this. I don't know if it'll help all of my clients to go through it, but everybody that goes through it on the other side, I don't want to do bookkeeping for, because we're very niche who we do bookkeeping for. So I've started a second website, CashflowCoach.ca, and that's marketing it separately. Now I have to get into, finding more out about SEO, start doing Google ads to try to get this whole other, base of potential clients that I've never done before. So I'm having fun with it. I've actually created a couple of different, so I'm going to be launching them in July, but a couple of different lead quizzes, kind of like, what Harry Potter house are you? It's kind of like, what legendary business leader are you? So you answer some of the questions. And so I'm finding, trying to play with it, but that's where it's going to be very difficult, is trying to find the balance and trying to find what actually works, because this is an area I've never gotten into, because up until now on the bookkeeping side, because we are so niche, we are referrals only, I've not had to worry about SEO. My website is up there. I mean, we get decent SEO, but the website is just there for people who are looking for us to find us. It's there for information for our existing clients. So it's this whole other world that I have to get into. And then, like I say, the biggest thing is really separating the value to people, which is again why I'm marketing it differently.
Yeah, makes sense. I understand. And you already mentioned a little bit earlier in this podcast AI. And
Yes.
obviously, this is something we really like to dive into in this podcast because it's also what we operate in ourselves with Dynamic. You explained your opinion on it, but I'm curious, in what way are you already using AI yourself? And what is your expectation of like the future with AI?
So that's a very loaded question with me. I've been using ChatGPT since it was in beta. So I am an early adopter when it comes to tech. I've always been that way, which is hilarious because mid-80s, when I was forced to take a computer class, I walked out of there with the 52% and I said, computers suck. They're not the wave of the future. So I'm eating my words now, obviously, but I like to be at the forefront of it. And I have one of my other friends and calls her and I challenge each other to do that. And we're both very interested with that and staying ahead of the curve. So I started like most people. And I actually, by the way, I do talk on AI so I just came back from QuickBooks Connect in Toronto, where I actually had a panel and an open peer-to-peer discussion on AI. So it's something that I've been talking about the past year because I believe that people need to understand that it will only replace us if we don't understand how to use it and what the ethics are and the limitations. So when I started using it, it was the emails. Let's face it, emails were the first thing that I started, and it really helped me because when I get angry or frustrated with an email, I tend to either send out an email, which is not necessarily the most professional, but hey, I'm the boss, so I am what I am, and I don't pretend anything else, but it might be a little bit more direct than I would do otherwise. But then I get frustrated and it takes me days to go through this process before I actually say, okay, I'm ready to hit send. So what I did with it is I just opened it and I just threw everything in there, all the curse words and everything. I said, okay, make it professional and then send it. So I was able to get everything out. So that really helped my process. It helps with difficult worded emails. Then I moved to, let's get creative with, some social media and help me with blogs. The way that I use it for blogs though, because I have a huge thing on ethics and in CPB Canada, which is our national bookkeeping association here in Canada, I am on the ethics and discipline committee. So ethics is really, really big for me. I don't feel it's ethical to put out a blog that AI created. On top of the fact that the Google bots and the SEO bots and all of that stuff, they can tell what's AI created and what's not, right? So what I do is I go in and I have it create a blog. So if I want to write a blog on why AI will not replace bookkeepers, I'm going to tell it to write me a blog on why AI will replace bookkeepers. So then it forces my creative juices in and I can write the best emotional blog in 5 minutes or less, which is really cool. So I started using it for that. ChatGPT has a negotiator that not a lot of people realize that is a custom GPT, and you can go in to use that to negotiate your skills. So if I'm looking at, coming up with a proposal for a client, I'll put all the details in there and I'll say, okay, this client is price sensitive and doesn't see value in bookkeepers and think all we do is data entry. What would they say back to this price? Oh, now how would I respond back with my value and go back and forth multiple times? So it really helps build the confidence of that. It really helps me to, get to that end result quicker because then I'll say, okay, now turn around and change the proposal to take all of that in mind and lower the chance of negotiation and increase the chance of acceptance. So, I'm able to get in and use it ways like that. So I've also created my own GPTs as well. So, and I use Cinter.ai, I use Perplexity for research, and notebook.lm is a very cool one for pulling together. It's free. It's a Google one, and that's pulling together research, and you can pull together. So whenever there's a government legislation change, you can throw out everything in there. It will only use the sources you give. It'll do a briefing document, a summary, and FAQ, and it turns it into a podcast so that you can then listen. And it's two people playing back and forth together, very humorous on all the topics in there. So it's a great learning tool.
All right.
Yeah. And that's just hitting the surface of it. I could go on for hours about this,
Yeah,
but
yeah, it sounds like it. And I really think it's really cool to hear that you're already like so far into it because not most people, but a lot of the people I speak with are very like old school and really like, yeah, I sometimes use ChatGPT and that's it.
you know what? You need to be able to deal with obstacles or speed bumps. And I look at AI as a speed bump, just like, the bank feeds were on QuickBooks Online when it first came out, people are going to say, hey, we don't need the bookkeeper anymore. You need to be able to really understand what you're dealing with. Like, know your competition. If AI is supposed to be my competition, I need to know it, which means that I need to understand how it works, its limitations, its ethics and whatnot. And I do have like a pamphlet that I send out to everybody that we price, and I put out there on the web that says, here's certain things you should look at when choosing a bookkeeper. What do they use AI for, and why could this work against you? So, and I always do challenge AI. When I go out and speak on it on my presentations, I actually have multiple scenarios that it does wrong, and I force it to do it wrong. A little complex, not a simple amortization schedule, but it did it wrong. It threw in its own assumptions. And that's what people don't realize is ChatGPT, for example, will fill in blanks with assumptions, or it's, going to fill in the blanks with information it has, which is not necessarily from validated sources. It's garbage in, garbage out. It learns from us. Same thing with, when you're using everything. Don't believe everything you read on the internet. It's not always true, right? So I do like to educate. AI is a good tool. We need to understand it. We need to understand its limits, and we need to keep playing with it and keep pushing those limits so that we can, again, work with it and be able to educate our clients as to why AI will never replace us.
And next to AI, you mentioned that you're quite into tech. You're trying to stay ahead of the curve.
Yep.
What other, and it doesn't have to be specifically tech focused, but what other key trends in the industry are you currently like looking into or responding to?
So I guess within the industry right now, there's not really any new tech in the last several years that's come out. It's changing the tech. They're expanding it. It's the same thing. So if there's new apps, I mean, you've got your receipt capture apps. They're building AI into it. They're trying to build smart AI into it. Same thing with, your ledgers, your QuickBooks Online. And I only mention QuickBooks because that's the only one we choose to use. And I don't know as much about Xero or Sage or Wave or the other ones, right? So they're pulling. I am trying to learn those as they come into, again, learn the good, the bad. I personally don't like them. I think they're focused on the US, and the US and Canada are very different. The compliance. So in the US, they can cash code from the bank feed. We can't because we are true accrual accounting here. So we can't cash code from the bank feed. When we look at receipts in Canada, we buy a lot of things from the US. So when it says tax, Dext is going to pull out the tax. Well, we have to look and see, is that an HST number or is that a New York sales tax, which we can't claim here? And even if it is, a Canadian HST number, we have certain ones that you can claim as a VAT and some that you can't claim as the VAT. So there's a lot of different rules around it that, complicate things here. So I do try to test, but again, anybody from Canada, when you're looking at that, they are basing that on the US because the US has, 10 times the population we do, so any of the smaller areas that have that, it's the same thing. We're getting kind of the leftovers and we've got to make it work for us. I do know Right Tool. I absolutely love. It is a Chrome add-on for QuickBooks. It was created by one of the top QuickBooks Pro advisors in the US, Hector Garcia, and it is doing a lot of things that we wish QuickBooks would do. They're creating it to do, which is wonderful. So there's a built-in connection to ChatGPT and Perplexity that we can then, when we pull up our profit and loss, we can hit a button and it'll automatically read through, take out the client identifying information because that's the free version, and give us a summary. We can say, write up a summary based on these reports as you would to, somebody with a, grade 2 education or a grade 10 education. And you can get, more in depth, which is something that we're really using that for, to be able to give the clients that extra added value. So whether it's that or whether it's, through ChatGPT, I am starting to look at, and oh my gosh, I can't even remember the name of it. It's the next, I can't even remember the name of it right now, but it's vibe coding. That's it. Vibe coding is next on my list to start to look into. I don't know much about it, except for it's supposed to be, once you've learned it, just as easy as creating a custom GPT, which I create custom GPTs to do a diagnostic review of books, and again, I will use that internally. And then I have a deep dive diagnostic that goes many, many levels deeper than that is unable to do. that I do charge more for. So that's kind of where we're playing. I'm kind of looking at what is the value, what is going to increase value to the client and increase the knowledge and the way that bookkeepers are seen so that we're not looked at as just data entry. So if it's going to increase value to client, it's going to increase us to increase the visibility of the profession, increase the respect of the profession. That's when I actually decide what I'm going to get into and start to look at and how to look at it.
Tanya, what is one piece of advice that you would give other bookkeepers or accountants or entrepreneurs in general that are looking to grow or looking to innovate their business or basically just looking to reach their goals?
So, and this is interesting. Just last week, I was asked this question, and I'm actually going to give a non-tech answer, although I know we're talking about tech. And this is because of something that happened recently to me. Have humility. Have humility, be outside of the box, and know that we can learn from everywhere. So just recently, we have a junior bookkeeper who has taught senior bookkeepers like that have been 35 plus years bookkeeping a simple little tweak that did use tech that nobody had even thought of. So we've got a bank statement, and in Canada, one of our bank statements has 3 different columns. It shows pre-tax, tax, and total. We just need the total. It was the simplest fix because we used to take that, pull it up, whether it be a GPT or use it in one of our PDF to Excel tools. It was always converting all 3 columns. That would get it mucked up. And it wasn't just as a matter of go and delete 2 columns. It would then take about 10 minutes of changing it, but it still saved us about 15 minutes rather than direct data entry. This new person was able to look at things differently because she was not as, in the weeds as we are. And she just said, well, when you open your PDF tool, let's just take it, let's just blur out these 2 columns that we don't need and upload it, and then it won't pull it. And that was the simplest thing. And I realized that so many of us, because we actually talked about it in one of the regular weekly calls with accounting professionals, not one person in that group had thought about it. And it was because we were thinking at a different level. And that's when we came that, again, we were a little bit more on the arrogant side, that until we heard that, we didn't realize how much we could learn from new people. You just think new people coming into the industry, they've only got, 6 months or a year experience. We've got 35. What can we learn from them?
Mm-hmm.
We were
A lot.
sold on that. So don't discount where you can learn from. And the new people that are coming in, they may have a slightly different way of looking at things. Maybe, not the debits and credit side of things, but there might be something else so we can learn. So yeah, it definitely taught me humility with that, and to make sure that I now know I can learn from everybody, learn something from everybody. So yeah, that would be the best piece of advice that I can give.
And if people want to learn more from you or want to get in contact with you or maybe want to work with you, where can they best find you?
So we've got 3 different brands. So if you're on the accounting side of things, you can go to, we're on social media. We are not on Twitter. We're on every other social media, and it's at Tanya's Bootcamp, or that is www.bookkeepersbootcamp.ca. If you're looking at the small business side of things, we are on, again, all social media platforms except for Twitter, and that is at OneCloudBiz. So the number 1 and then Cloud Biz is BIZ, or cloudbusinessservices.ca. Or if you're looking for the cash flow, that is CashflowCoach.ca, and we're still using the OneCloudBiz. Or always email support at mycbs.ca, and CBS is meaning for Cloud Business Services.ca. And because all emails come to one place, so if you just anything else, email me there. Let me know how you're interested, and we can definitely see how we can help.
Perfect. Sounds really good. Tanya, I really want to thank you so much for being on the podcast today. It was super valuable. I really loved your insights, and I really think it's so super cool to see that you're quite deep into tech and deep into AI as well. That's really interesting for me. Yeah, again, thank you so much. Do you've got any last words maybe for the podcast?
I always have words. Anybody that knows me knows I always have last words. You know what? Just don't be afraid of AI. Get in there, really learn it, and give yourself 15 minutes a day to work with it and push those boundaries, because AI will make us irrelevant if we don't learn how to use it and integrate it in what we do and learn what the capabilities are. If we learn how to use it, how to best use it, capabilities, limits, boundaries, all of that, and learn how to pull that in, we will ensure we are not irrelevant.
Thank you so much.
Great.
I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Levi. It was fun.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you. For the ladies and gentlemen listening at home, my name is Levi. And yeah, thank you so much for listening. And this was The Balance.
Thank you.